Come on, mate.
Welcome to My Pie,
What's
the
up?
show where me and my buddy Issa talk about everything. Today's topic is about what makes a good movie.
Makes a movie good.
I don't know, brother. You're the filmmaker. You tell me.
Well, there's a lot of things that make movies good, I think.
Okay.
But first of all, what inspired you? What inspired this?
The
topic?
Aladdin trailer. I was watching the Aladdin trailer. When we were watching the Aladdin trailer, and the whole argument of should movies be remade or not.
Mm.
And so I was kind of in my head thinking, should we do a topic about that? But I was like, I feel like this is a more broad topic. We can cover a broader spectrum with having a discussion of what makes a movie great. And obviously it's going to be subjective.
Yeah.
Apparently there's like a very famous movie critic who who all the trash movies.
Oh, he likes.
Yeah, he likes for some reason. I think he's just don't like he knows what he's doing. Like he's just trying
Trolling
to he's just
everybody.
trolling.
Yeah.
But he actually writes long reviews of why that movie is great, and then the good movies why they're trash.
Yeah.
So I feel like you could almost argue anything. It's kind of subjective.
He liked. I remember there was like a list of movies that he liked, and I was like, what? Like
Yeah.
the emoji movie, or not the emoji movie? It was like Pixel. It was with Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah.
That was on his list. That was on the list of movies that he liked. I like Adam Sandler. That movie was
I do
ridiculous.
too. And that's the thing is like you have to know what you're getting into. I feel like you can't just call yourself a movie critic
Mm-hmm.
and then have your own personal like taste and go out and watch every movie expecting certain key criteria.
Yeah. So there are objective characteristics that go into movies that you can kind of tell. Like, for example, there is a
Introduction,
rising action, falling
climax.
action, climax, falling action, resolution. Those things. It's like if it doesn't follow. I mean, it's not necessarily true that if it doesn't follow these specific schematics, then it's gonna be a bad movie. But usually that's the case. It's like if there's no like order, if it's like very chaotic, then you just tend to feel lost and not immersed into the movie. And I think
Mhm.
that's actually one of the biggest things that make movies, in my opinion, for me, that's one of the biggest things that make movies special to me. I think my favorite movies are always movies where, I was fully immersed into this world, right, that I had never been to before. And this was like, I was able to be introduced into the movie, or like introduced into this world, and then kind of like learn more, either with a character or even just on my own, learn more about the world. And then by the end of it, feel like, I enjoyed my time there.
Mhm.
And then, but yeah, so whenever I think about my favorite movie, like probably, it's not I don't know if it's my favorite movie anymore, but my favorite movie for the longest time was Interstellar. Like,
Okay.
I remember watching it 2012,
I still haven't seen it
2014.
yet.
Okay, I won't
Mhm.
spoil it, but for the longest time, that movie was just incredible to me. And I feel like one of the biggest reasons for that is because of the way that it really introduces the world to you in the beginning of the movie, and then so that you have an understanding of why there's a real conflict. You have an understanding of what the resolution means and why they chose that sort of resolution. It was a great movie. That was a great movie.
So something I value a lot in a movie
Hmm.
is I like having like mystery in
Absolutely.
movies.
Yeah.
I don't like things to be resolved too fast.
Yeah.
And I at the same time, if the movie doesn't plan on making a sequel,
Mm.
I don't like things to be resolved at the very last second. Like I don't like to
Yeah.
find out like kind of the whole twist at the very end. It's like, oh, he was really the father, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, no, like that stuff. It's a little played out.
Yeah.
So I value that. Obviously, you need to have good voice acting or good actors. I feel like that's then I feel like that goes across the board.
Mhm.
You're gonna have a good movie if you have good. That's not necessarily true, but you're going your movie is going to be better if you have good
Absolutely.
actors. I feel like
Absolutely.
that's the number one thing. Number two thing that I really value is the significance of minor characters. I like when minor characters, you kind of peer into their world a little bit.
Mm.
So there was a character in the beginning of the last Blade Runner, the one that just came out, and even though he was just that character was just meant for development for the main character,
Mm.
that it still gives you, you still get a whole introduction into this world
Yeah,
through that character.
I get it.
And then you see how just, brutal that some people have to go through such a harsh time, even though it was like through the eyes of that minor character.
Mm.
So it's telling the main character's story through another character. So it feels like you're a part of that world.
Yeah, I really like movies like that too. I don't. I like movies where you feel like you are growing with a character,
Mhm.
whether that's the main character or not. It doesn't matter, but I like it to feel like I'm finding things out alongside some of these characters. Like,
And the Bourne movies do that so well.
yeah, they do.
Because
They
you're
do.
confused in the beginning the same way he's confused.
He's confused. Yeah,
and-
they really played that whole amnesia thing out to the brim.
Yeah.
They played it out to the very last movie, and that series, that saga is like a decade long.
Mhm.
The last one was alright.
I didn't see that. I think it was. Did they make two new ones? Because I've only seen the original trilogy, and I like the original trilogy.
I love the original trilogy, and I even think that the way it ended was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't really like, it didn't give you the closure that you would assume
Mhm.
the trilogy would have given you, but I still was satisfied with like the way that.
Yeah, and I still think for me it's very hard to top the mystery, and this same goes for shows and movies. A lot of times the best one is the first one, when you don't know everything.
I can see that. Yeah.
And for me personally, I like not knowing. I
Yeah.
like thinking of all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at, for example, the Ridley Scott Alien movies, people liked not knowing where the xenomorphs came from, where the aliens came from. And whenever the answer was kind of given in the last movie, a lot of people were kind of like, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of them being just this mysterious entity
Mm-hmm.
in space. And because, I mean, it was such an iconic monster character that's created,
Yeah.
and it had such a big expectation. It was very hard to create a good story to live up,
To that expectation. Yeah, absolutely.
a good background for it.
I think that happens a lot though too. I think that some of the craziest things, like people's imaginations are insane. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so it's like whenever you have such an iconic character, honestly, I think that's what happened in the last Bourne movie, right? So they had delved much deeper into his story, and it just kind of seems so like, so that's why he did all this,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, it just kind of downplays it. I feel like it may have been better left alone
Mhm.
if they would have, left it to the viewer's imagination, because then the possibilities are limitless.
And they're also wasting screen time explaining, just
new plots and like twists. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of that, and I think there's a lot of
this
that in
is
a lot of
why he
movies.
secretly did this and,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
They try to ease it into the
They're trying to
dialogue.
make the plot juicier, but really they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes minimal backstory means more
Yeah,
than too much backstory.
for sure. I see that.
Mhm.
So, what do you think about? So, I've actually been thinking a lot. There's movies coming out left and right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know if this has always been like this. I'm sure it's much more in terms of the number of movies that are coming out. But I remember when I was younger, there was a lot of movies that I wanted to watch, and I would write them down, and I felt like I could, if I really wanted to, I could have watched those movies like in order. But now there's movies coming out left and right. It's like 5-6 movies that you want to watch are releasing same day, and then they're out the next day because there's another set of movies that are coming in. And it's like, man, the number of movies are extreme. It's like so fast,
Yeah.
but I don't
It's
know
that's
if
same with video games and just all forms of entertainment, TV
they're
shows
just
and
shooting it out.
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Is the quality dropping?
I don't I don't think that's why the quality is dropping. I think the quality is dropping because there is a specific formula that that I guess I guess you could say like the layman or normal audience or kids enjoy.
Mhm.
And it's always the same formula. You look at the Marvel movies, it's almost the same thing every
That's what I
single
was
time.
thinking about.
Yeah, and
So, my bad. Go ahead.
so people want, even though people say we don't want to see the same thing, they really do. They want to see good special effects.
Mm-hmm.
They want to, see their favorite actors on screen
Right.
making the same puns or same
Jokes
funny jokes
Over and over.
over
again.
and over again. And they want to see a good fight scene, which some of them honestly even don't. And they want to see the good guys win in the end, or they want to see like, a new cool bad guy so the good guys could beat him later.
Yeah.
Like that's what the after credits are for.
Yeah, and it's like, so that's actually the main sort of studio that I was talking about, the Marvel Studios. It's like
Mhm.
they are shooting out movies left and right.
And TV
They're
series.
giving everybody a chance, and they're making a new Black Widow movie. And I think that is that her name, Black Widow?
Yeah, I was just confused. Like, why would they give her a?
I mean, I think it's cool. She's been in every single movie since
Yeah.
the very beginning, and it's like, Scarlett Johansson, she's cool. Her character's cool. She's mysterious. We don't really know where she comes from or
Mhm.
anything like that. So I think it could be a good movie. But I just feel like they're going to make it stupid. But, of course, everybody's going to love it because it's Scarlett Johansson and it's Black Widow. But it's like, I feel like this is a prime opportunity for them to really go into a story and really tell a story and not follow the same Marvel plot.
So I think the problem with the Marvel movies is that they're so bound to
PG-13?
the comics too.
Oh.
So and they know
Even
a
then.
huge because look at what happened to Transformers. They tried to go off script, and
no, it's
really the hardcore fans are what ruined the movies.
Yeah.
The movies themselves were sure they weren't great, but honestly, if you're into VFX and special effects and sound,
Mm-hmm.
like they're pretty amazing. They're actually like groundbreaking.
I enjoyed the first.
I enjoyed the
three.
first one too, and I didn't think it was a bad movie, but you had a bunch of hardcore fans come and ruin it for everybody, and a lot of those fans are also critics, so it's you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
So when you do that with Marvel, you have to be like super careful, or else people get very upset because it's
Yeah.
like not authentic.
No, for sure. I don't mind that, but it's like the thing about filmmaking is that it's an art, and that means that you can't just copy paste a lot of these things. And I
Mhm.
feel like it's sort of, I watched Ant-Man. That was the last Marvel
Mhm.
movie that I watched. And I just was so bored by it. Like, I was incredibly bored. Like, it was a good movie,
Mhm.
but it was just like, why do I feel like I've seen this before? Why do I feel like
Yeah.
I've heard that joke before? The fight scenes, it's
It-
like
it
the
was-
slow motion.
I
it's
enjoyed the movie, but
too-
it was definitely not memorable. And I have a very good memory when remembering movies,
Mhm.
and I try to look back at that one,
Yeah.
and it's almost.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the second one. I'm talking about the second.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
the first one was the first one I liked. I think more, but it still was like the same sort of thing. But the second one I think was much worse than the first one. It was a cool movie. I laughed.
Mhm.
I was sort of engaged.
It's a
but-
kids movie. At the end of the day, it's a kids movie.
for sure. But so I think that movie was still, and people are gonna freaking trip off this, like including you. I think that the worst, or one of the worst, in terms of potential, Marvel movies that I've seen, or the one that I enjoyed the least recently was Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Heck
before
no,
you,
bro.
Before you go crazy on me, like, I was so disappointed in that movie. It felt like a short film. I'm like I like watching movies. I like filming and being a part of the production and stuff like that. I'm all into that. And so it's very rare for me to like, I'll hold if I gotta pee, I'll like hold it to just like,
Same.
So in this movie, it was like no big deal if I like got up and like got some popcorn or like freaking got a drink of water, because it was just so like, I was so annoyed by it, bro. the the much of the movie is just references to the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
right? Almost as if to like boast about being, Spider-Man being a part of the Marvel universe now. It was so annoying. I felt like I liked that there wasn't the same like Spider-Man introduction where he gets bit by a spider. I felt like we already know that, right? But still, like, give some kind of introduction. The first 10 minutes of the movie is a clip, no, even longer, 20 minutes of the movie is just clips taken from the Avengers, the
Mhm.
movie that he was introduced in. That was so annoying to me. I really wanted him to really, show off this character, you know what I mean? And I just felt like they didn't do that. The villain I thought was terrible. There wasn't really a scene that I could say like, oh, that was probably my favorite scene.
For me, I enjoyed the movie just because of Tom Holland's acting.
Yeah, he's great.
I think just seeing him on screen was enjoyable enough to where I didn't want to get up.
Mhm.
I just enjoyed him so much on screen. But I do agree with the whole like, Iron Man being like
That was so
it's
annoying.
basically like
There's a scene in the
Spider-Man and
movie.
Iron Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a scene in the movie where it's like Spider-Man is finally like able to use all of his stuff, right? He's
Mhm.
using his stuff, he's saving the world, and then the ship there's a ship that's sinking, right? And it's like, what is Spider-Man gonna do right now?
Yeah.
So hyped. Freaking Iron Man flies out of nowhere and saves the day.
And also the Vulture fight at the end wasn't that
I
good.
didn't even watch it. I can't even
Oh
remember
my
it at
god.
all. I can't remember it at all. It was so like boring to me. It felt like they just wanted to make this a part of the Marvel universe so much that I feel like they took away a lot from the actual
It would have
Spider-Man
been
movie.
cool if it was smaller references, you know.
Yeah, I think that, a little action figure, right? There's action figures on the floor that's like the Iron Man. Those are cool, right? A lot of movies that are done by the same production company or by the same director, a lot of times they'll have fake companies that are in multiple movies to show that these movies are
I
related to
think the
each other.
reason why they had Iron Man in the movie and the Iron Spider suit and everything is because they wanted more people to watch the movie. So
Exactly.
it's not just Spider-Man fans coming. It's like if you want to be a part of the MCU and you want to be up to date and watch the next Infinity War, you have to watch this one. That's pretty much what they're doing.
For sure.
So I think, I mean, obviously this movie's a build-up movie, and so
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, it's a build-up
It's a
movie.
short film. It's
but
not a film. It's a short film, and I
but
would not pay money to go watch that. I would wait till it is bootlegged. I'm so serious. That I would have been if I
yeah.
went to the movie movies are freaking $15 now. If I paid $15 and went to watch that movie, I would have left pissed off.
Yeah.
I think that I'm hoping that it's to set up for the new Spider-Man movie. The
Mhm.
new Spider-Man movie is like Far From Home or something like that. It comes out next year. I feel like if that one should be focused on
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
For
You know what
sure.
I mean? And I feel like that
And
one would be
we're
cool.
also getting the Miles Morales story, that's coming out soon.
Mhm.
And
The cartoon one?
yeah, yeah.
That movie looks tight as heck.
Yeah, it looks really good. However, I do feel like it's gonna be. I don't really like the plot that they're choosing. It's the whole parallel universe
Yeah,
storyline, and I mean we'll see. We'll see. I can't judge it. I think it's gonna be more of a charming movie than anything.
I'm fine with that. I think the last Spider-Man movie it wasn't a Spider-Man movie. It was a Marvel short film.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Oh, what are we at? We got 3 minutes. We're good.
Awesome.
We got 2 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just wasn't super hyped about. Whenever I think about that movie, I think like I really enjoy side characters. Side characters are awesome.
Yeah.
There's side characters in there that I feel like were memorable in some way,
Yeah.
but I don't even remember their names. Like I feel like
Yeah.
the short Asian kid was cool, but it's
Yeah, I
like,
liked
what is his
him.
name?
I have no idea.
What is the black girl's name who he's in love with? You don't know. The only person that I remember, um, whose name was MJ, and she was introduced in the last 5 minutes of the movie, and it was so forced. He's like, what do I call you? And she's like, you can call me MJ. And
Yeah, my
then it
friends
ends.
call me MJ.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was like, that is the corniest
And
thing.
and you know what's crazy is I didn't even get that reference.
Really?
Yeah, because her character is so far off from the normal MJ that we're
She
used
is the
to.
most insignificant character in the movie.
Yeah.
The only reason why you're even giving her a second look is because, at least for me, it's like I recognized her. It's Zendaya. She's played by Zendaya. Her character is so unimportant. She's not funny.
But I
She's
don't
not
know. I don't know
charming.
how I feel about her being MJ, to be honest. I'll
Sh-
be honest with you. I don't really like it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. And that's something where it's like the hardcore Spider-Man fan of me is like, MJ was this chick that all the guys were after, and the nerdy kid ended up like getting her.
Yeah, I see
And
that. Oh yeah, she was a
and
model.
a lot of people like that trope. Not necessarily a model, but she was just a
in
really
theater.
pretty girl.
She was in theater.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just a really pretty girl in school.
Yeah.
And like this girl is like
Like
super low key.
gothic and,
Yeah,
like-
just like hiding in the corner, and it kind of almost should we take a break and reset it?
Yeah,
Alrighty.
we'll reset it from here.
All right,
But
we'll be back shortly after this sponsored commercial break. I think I wanted to bring up another thing that really bothered me in movies. I hate forced themes. For example, the whole feminist movement and feminism movement. So I don't mind female protagonists. And in fact, I'll take any good protagonist. And sometimes I actually prefer female antagonists for certain roles because
I'm gonna push this towards you. There you go.
because it just because it, because because females are, in terms of like action role, just action in general are looked down upon. So it's cool to see it's almost like an automatic underdog
Situation. Yeah.
when a character is a female.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. However, when it's very forced, I don't know if you've seen the animated CGI movie called Moana. Have you seen Moana?
I haven't seen it, but I've seen like parts of it.
I hated that movie. And
Really?
it was and
That
it was the
movie's
same.
stopping.
And and a lot of people like it, but to me it's just that forced trope of here is this big dumb male, ironically played by The Rock, Rock Johnson, and he from the outside his character is confident and strong and high self-esteem, but in reality, he's a coward. And so she's the brave one that has to like put him back on track and like make up for his cowardice. And I saw the same thing. This is a reason why I'm not the biggest fan of the latest Star Wars films. Is it's the same thing. You have a male character and a female character who are both protagonists of the series, yet the female one has an unbreakable will, and the male character wavers. And it's
I can
like,
see that. I don't see no problem.
but it's I'm seeing it over and over and over again. It feels very forced sometimes, very forced.
I actually read a review about the Star Wars movies in particular, where they're like, I didn't see them, but the latest ones, they were saying like, there's actually an edit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to link it. I think there's an edit of just female characters, or an edit without any female characters, and it was I can't remember the I don't even know why I just said that. I can't remember exactly what happened, but we're gonna link the video, and it's like the full film with just female characters or without, and it was saying like exactly what you're saying. It's like, man, they're like trying to force this thing on us.
Yeah.
Like, crazy. And I don't know. I saw the first. I don't know if it wasn't Rogue One, but the first film.
Even
from
Rogue
the
One
new-
had something like that. I actually liked Rogue One, by the way. And I liked the protagonist in Rogue One. However, we still saw some. I don't know if was it Rogue One. I believe it was. But in one of the Star Wars movies, one of the latest ones, there was a commander who's a female character, and there's like the leader of the rebel pilots, and he does something, or tries to do something, and then she gets mad at him, and it was showing how like what I saw was that she was the wise one, and he acted irrationally, and made a mistake, even though from the viewer's eyes it seemed like the right thing to do, but she had higher wisdom. I don't know, and in the end, she ended up like making a dumb decision, and like so like he would have been right all along. It was kind of, I don't know how I felt about that whole thing. I was like, what was her point in the movie? Like she was so insignificant to me.
That seems
She was
like
just
that's
annoying.
the case a lot of the times where it's like, you know, or at least as far as I understood in this like article, it seemed like a lot of the characters were there just to have women characters involved in the movie.
And you know, one of the creative directors, or the director, or of Brave, the movie with the redhead,
Yeah.
in I don't know, Ireland, Scottish, I don't know, but he was basically talking about how he didn't want his son to grow up watching male protagonists at all, because he wanted his son to look up to like strong female characters, because he didn't want his son to, you know, I guess be manly. I don't know what it was. I don't know. It was a long time ago since I seen his that excerpt or clip where he was talking about it, but it completely made no sense to me.
Really?
I mean, I get it if you don't want to, you know, expose your kid to like Conan the Barbarian, who's out, who's being a player, and you know, that kind of thing. I get that, but look, there's nothing wrong with a good male protagonist, and it almost seems like it's part of the Hollywood trend right now.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's everywhere, right? They're pushing all kinds of like secret agendas, or I wouldn't even say secret agendas, but it's like it seems like it's catered to societal situations, right? So it's like they're pretty much in every single kid show, every single new movie. There has to be. It's like in the criteria where it's like there needs to be some sort of gay character involved.
Oh yeah.
It's like no matter what. It doesn't matter how we have to put this in there. We have to make a gay character, put a gay character in here, and make it like a big deal where it's like they can't come out, right? It's like 2018, right? People.
I think I see that more in shows.
A lot more in shows
than I do in movies.
It is in it is in shows a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think the top 3 that I was like thinking of are all shows. So it's like The 100. I was thinking of that one. Then there's a new The 100 in the Hundreds, where it's like the
Yeah. Okay.
I was so confused by that. Like, it kind of threw me off guard.
It's a CW show. It's at the end of the day, CW is all about what's going on in the kids and what the teenagers.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
all
I
of them
stopped
are like
watching
that.
after like a couple episodes, but it's in there, and then pretty much everywhere, right? It's like there needs to be a gay character, and which is, I mean, it doesn't bother me. It just seems
It's forced.
sometimes, yeah, it just feels like that didn't need to be in there, and if it was in there, make it regular. Make it like a regular thing. You don't have to blow it up into this humongous, sort of like a branch in the plot where it's like, oh, this is a very big deal. It's like, man, I don't know. I'm annoyed by things like that. And, you know, I have nothing against, I think it's, if there's a movie about gay people or it's about a gay protagonist or whatever, of course, yeah, blow it up. Make it a big deal. Show the struggles. Show the this. But it's like in regular movies that have nothing to do with anything like that, right? It's a movie about a freaking, I don't know, a tree like turning into a human being. Someone in that movie is going to be gay and it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. I think, you know, a TV series that played that whole thing out really well was a pirate show called Black Flag. And that show, I don't want to spoil the show because it's actually one of my favorite shows ever. Probably top 3 on my list for sure. But they played that whole thing out very well. That is an excellent show, by the way, because it shows, I guess, it does that whole thing of, you know, your emotions are with the character. Like you feel the character's anger and hatred towards the whole world.
Yeah.
To where even though his I guess you could say conquest of, you know, him wanting to start his own nation seemed like it was for the better of all the people around him. I like the motions that show puts you through. Another thing I like about any type of medium, whether it be video games or shows or TV series or movies, is I like imperfect characters. I like characters with flaws. I like to see characters make mistakes
Mm.
and like major mistakes, because I feel like that's we like to see. I like to see things that I can kind of relate to.
Yeah.
And I think most people do. So I like to see people lose control and make a mistake. Now I don't know if you've seen Infinity War.
Mm.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Towards the end of the movie, one of the characters loses his cool, and even though it was forced, and I don't like the way that they did it,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like had they done that better, I would have
Appreciated.
I
it
would
a
have
little more.
appreciated it more.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought that was a little annoying too.
It was super. It was like because his character was already known in the past to keep cool, and he already made the resolve.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen out of nowhere, you know.
Mhm.
But I enjoy seeing characters, make a mistake to the point where you don't like that character, to where you hate that character,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And then and they almost kind of eventually you start to understand their emotions more,
And you sort of
why they feel a
build that
certain way,
relationship
and then
back
you
up. Yeah,
build
makes
that
sense.
strong emotional connection to that character.
That makes sense. But yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Christopher Nolan films.
So he's my favorite director of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Point blank.
So the Batman movie, Batman Returns, the one with Heath Ledger and the Joker. Batman. It wasn't
Dark Knight.
Batman. Dark Knight Rises.
Hmm.
I thought that was a good movie, but honestly, I didn't think it was great. And
Let me turn this. Just kidding.
because I don't know. So for me, the introduction of that movie was excellent. I love the beginning of the movie. I think it's one of the
Incredible
greatest
introductions.
iconic
It was
introductions to a movie
amazing.
ever.
Yeah.
However, I feel like everything was good about that movie except for one thing. And that one thing for me was Batman. Cuz I like Christian Bale as Batman. However, it almost seemed like the movie was moving on its own, and he was just kind of there reacting to small things.
I can see that. But I actually felt sort of the opposite about it. I felt like I wasn't really watching a Batman movie a lot of times. I felt like I was watching, in some ways, a Joker movie or
Yeah.
a Gotham movie. And I was okay with that. I mean, in a lot of movies, I would say even in most movies, the audience's favorite character is very rarely the main character. It's almost always in series and shows
Yeah.
and movies. It's always a side character.
But this
whether
is a
that's-
superhero movie, though.
even then, I think a lot of times it's like, so I wouldn't necessarily say that Harry Potter's a superhero, but I would say that
I
he's
was
in some
thinking the
ways
same thing.
similar. He's similar to a superhero, and it's like if you ask someone who's your favorite character in Harry Potter, the
nobody-
series,
He
it's never
literally-
Harry
he does
Potter.
nothing.
It's always Ron, or it's always one of the Weasley twins, or it's always Hermione, or it's always someone else. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what they do so well in that saga, in that series. They develop characters so well throughout the series, and you feel like you really get to know them, and people consistently stay within their characteristics. And I think that's so cool. In the Dark Knight Rises movie, I felt the same way. I never felt like Batman was supposed to be the character that you like the most. I felt like he was the
But
he
for
was-
me, it wasn't about liking him the most. It was just about I felt like I don't know. I feel like there wasn't a lot of Batman. There was a lot of Bruce Wayne, but there wasn't a lot of Batman.
For sure. And that's why I kind of felt like it wasn't really a Batman movie. I mean, as far as screen time goes, if I recall correctly, I would say that the Joker probably had as much screen time as Batman, if not more than Batman, if you consider Batman and Bruce Wayne to be different characters.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I kind of think that's like a cool thing. I thought that was really cool. I thought that it did a very good job of focusing on characters, developing characters. For example, Two-Face. I think that it was a little quick, but I thought that
Yeah.
that was kind of cool, the way that they at least focused a bit on him.
I like the build up to it,
Mm-hmm.
but the moment he turns into Two-Face
Yeah. Where
Afterwards?
he turns over in his...
was kind of just I didn't like it, man.
Really?
And you remember when Batman, I think, saves the kid or whatever from him, and it just felt like it was just a side thing to like, just get out of the way so I could focus back on Joker. Like this
Yeah,
guy's insignificant.
for sure.
And
I felt like I did feel like it was quick, but I didn't really have any expectation or anything for Two-Face because I don't read the comics or anything, so
Yeah.
I didn't even really know that character. So it did feel super rushed, and I can see that if somebody was a big fan of that character, why they would be upset
Yeah.
about it. But I don't know. I think the Joker makes that movie. Like,
for sure.
I think the Joker makes that movie, and
The
I don't know. I enjoyed it
iconic
so
acting.
much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I really like that movie. Christopher Nolan is incredible, and
Yeah.
he is like, his directing.
He
is-
directed Dunkirk, right?
He did. I haven't seen it yet. I have it.
A lot of people
downloaded.
don't like that movie. I
Really?
actually enjoyed that movie.
Really.
And because one of my favorite things about any movie, any film is sounds. I love
Sound design is like
sound design,
huge.
which is why A Quiet Place is such a good movie.
Yeah, I
And
liked it.
what do they call it whenever all the sound is done in a quiet like warehouse? It has a special name for it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
But
about.
all of the like the monster like walking was like celery and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
And
about.
to me that movie was I love that movie. It was
Yeah.
phenomenal, and it's because of the sound.
Christopher Nolan actually carries this one particular technique. It's a sound technique called the Shepherd's uh, Reset Glissando or something like that. Glissando. Basically, what it is like 3 notes that repeat, but in each octave, which means that it's at a very high octave and it repeats and it builds tension. It's like dut, 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 dut. And then those same 3 notes are repeated at a lower octave, but offset from each other, and then at a lower, so it's offset, and so it makes it feel like tension is continuously
Yeah.
rising. And he does that in so many of his movies. In Dunkirk in particular, I haven't seen the movie, but I saw a scene where he uses a lot of like the clock noises, like,
Oh yeah, that's right.
it's like-
that's right.
he does that, and it builds so much tension with these techniques. And his sound design is always incredible. He works a lot with Hans Zimmer, who's like an amazing
Yeah,
like what is his name, orchestrator.
yeah,
I don't know, he's a producer, music producer for film, and like he directed Interstellar as well. So Interstellar, Inception, Memento, all those movies have great sound design, and it's like I think I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons why I like that movie so much. Sound is so important.
Yeah.
So important. And that actually reminds me, I wanted to talk about, so I think my favorite movies are from Christopher Nolan, but I think my favorite director is actually a director. His name is Edgar Wright. And Edgar
Okay.
Wright,
What movies?
he does a lot of like the fun. So he did Baby Driver is probably the
Okay,
most
I like
recent
that
one.
movie. Yeah,
He did
yeah.
Baby
It's a great
Driver,
movie.
but he does a lot of stuff with. He's from the UK. He does Shaun of the Dead, and that every movie that guy from Shaun of the Dead acts in is like directed by Edgar Wright.
Mhm.
I can't think of Hot Fuzz. I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm-mm.
Basically, he plays into. I don't think that his films aren't really like huge budget like Christopher Nolan's or anything like that. He really just uses a lot of the camera motion and sound design to complement what's happening in the story. And like in Baby Driver in particular, I felt like he did it on another level.
Yeah.
Baby Driver, the main character has like a hearing
Yeah, yeah.
disability or something like that, and he really allows you to. He really puts you in that person's place as a viewer, but so subtly. You know,
Yeah.
he makes it seem like everything in the environment is making a noise
the
for a
scene
specific
where
reason.
he's getting the coffee.
The
and then,
introduction, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. But that
Mhm.
entire movie was just amazing. If you haven't watched it, that's
a
definitely a
good
movie that
movie.
you should watch.
So going back to Dunkirk, I think sound is so important to where if a movie does sound really well,
Hmm.
the plot, because Dunkirk's plot wasn't like there was no plot.
Really?
You know, it didn't really, it wasn't, there was a plot.
Hmm.
However, it wasn't traditional at all.
Yeah.
It was almost like you're just viewing something that happened.
I actually like movies like that, but continue.
Yeah, so it was like just a story of guys trying to get saved.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was for me just sound and tension that made, it made that movie so good. But my favorite movie of all time is by Guillermo del Toro, and it's Pan's Labyrinth. And the reason why I like that movie is because it's a fairy tale esque movie. However, it has a lot of harsh realities to it.
Mm.
So it's like almost like an adult kid story, adult fairy tale, with like
Is it a animation film?
no, it's not. It's a movie that it's in Spanish first of all, and that alone for some reason I feel like the movie is better in Spanish than it would be in English.
Yeah.
And just because there's a narrator's voice, and like even like when I think about that movie, I'm starting to get goosebumps right
Really?
now. Yeah, because like I cried at the end of that movie.
I'm gonna watch it.
It was so sad to me, but and he also did the Hellboy movies. But if you ask a lot of people what their favorite movie is, a lot of people will tell you Pulp Fiction. And
Never seen that either.
you never seen Pulp Fiction?
Mm-mm.
Really famous director. I don't remember his name though. I'm gonna look it up.
But yeah,
It's
I like
been a while since I kept up with like just directors.
directors. Yeah, I don't really know a lot of like, aside from like really famous directors, there's a lot of directors that I feel like don't get enough credit. I feel like Edgar Wright, in my opinion, he hasn't done a lot of movies, but Edgar Wright, in my opinion, is one of the best, and he doesn't get huge credit for it. All right, we're gonna stop right there while you pull that up, and then I'm gonna restart this.
I think that movie, what it highlights so well, and what you don't see very often, is multiple subplots intertwined together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen. It's an English film, a British film called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then there's another movie called Snatch, and Pulp Fiction. All three of those movies have those kind of subplots intertwining, and people really, really enjoy seeing that, seeing multiple likable characters, all with their own stories, and sometimes those stories intertwine,
Yeah,
and sometimes they just cross path,
for
and
sure.
they go their own separate ways.
He does that a lot. Quentin Tarantino, he does that a lot.
Mhm.
I know that he did Inglourious Bastards, which kind of has that theme sort of in there loosely, where there's in the beginning of the movie you're introduced to some a character you're not gonna see again until sort of like the end, but she
I actually haven't seen that. That's on my watch list.
She plays a vital role. That movie was really cool. I thought it was gonna be a little more. That was gonna be a little more exciting, but I wasn't disappointed. One of my favorite actors actually plays in the movie. I can't think of his name right now. His name is Christopher. Hold up.
Dang, our phones are blowing up.
He plays in Django too. Hold up.
I'm gonna pick this up.
But yeah, the actor that I was talking about who plays in Glorious Bastards is my favorite character in that
Shia
movie.
LaBeouf?
No, Christoph Waltz. He is the guy who plays in Django.
Okay.
He plays in another movie called Downsizing. He's great in every one of his movies, but he is the guy in Inglourious Bastards.
Was Shia LaBeouf in Inglourious Bastards? Or was
No, he
that,
wasn't.
He was in Fury.
He was in Fury, which
Yeah.
was a great movie also. That was actually probably one of my favorite movies when it came out. But yeah, Christoph Waltz is incredible. I think my favorite actor of all time, though, is definitely Tom Hardy, no doubt.
Oh, same.
Tom Hardy is amazing.
I didn't know that was your favorite
Yeah.
actor too.
I think
He's my favorite actor.
Shia LaBeouf was my favorite for a while. I liked Shia LaBeouf, but I don't know. I just haven't really seen him.
Tom Hardy. I feel like for me it's Tom Hardy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do like Shia LaBeouf more than my number two,
Mm-hmm.
but Christian Bale would have to be just because both of those actors.
Bale?
Yeah, because both him and Tom Hardy can conform to roles so well.
What has Christian Bale played in?
I mean, for me, it's just like looking at three movies, looking at like The Machinist, and then have you seen him in The Machinist?
Mm-mm.
Do you know how he looks like in The Machinist?
The super skinny? Is he really
Yeah.
skinny?
The
Yeah, I've never seen
Machinist,
it.
and then doing Batman,
Mm.
and then doing and now he's doing the Dick Cheney movie where he's playing Dick Cheney.
That looks so
So-
good.
So it's
That looks so good.
it's like very similar to how Tom Hardy is playing
Don't even
Al
say that.
Pacino. What's his name? Al Capone.
Al Capone,
Yeah, Al Pacino.
bro.
Al Pacino. But
Tom Hardy is on another level as far as acting goes. Like completely immersive.
mhm.
He really captures characters and make them his own. You know, even he played two twins in a
Yeah,
movie
yeah. I was
called
just about to say I haven't seen Legends,
Oh
but
my
even just looking
gosh.
at the trailer,
That movie's so good.
just looking at the trailer alone, they're two separate characters.
Two separate
Yeah, they're two
characters
separate
that are played by
characters,
the same
but that
person,
are
and you forget the entire way. You forget that these are not two different people, and they're
Yeah.
twins. You know what I mean? And they're not only are they twins, but there's a lot of similarities between the two, but very very distinct differences that really kind of distinguish the two of them. And it's character, and it's like personality type stuff, and it's like insane, man. That's a great movie. But he plays in a ton of great movies. He's a great actor. Definitely one of my favorite. I really like I can't think of his name. He's probably the biggest actor in Hollywood right now. Not right now, but he was.
What movie?
Wolf of Wall Street, Titanic.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like him a lot.
He's good
lot.
too.
I don't know if I like his movies.
I haven't seen the movie out in the wilderness. What was it called?
It's called The Revenant.
The Revenant. I haven't seen. There's so many
He was incredible
big
in that
movies that I
movie.
have not seen, and same with like Christopher Nolan movies, like Interstellar and Inception are two movies that
You haven't seen those?
no, because
What is wrong with you?
I'm waiting. Because I love, for me, image quality and sound are so important and big to me. If I
Mhm.
know a movie does those so well, I want the proper
I literally have
first-time
them
experience.
both on Blu-ray. I'll send them to you.
But here's the thing: is like I very rarely like watching a movie more than once. It's
I can see that.
it's a weird thing. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I'll watch it more than once, but I won't enjoy it the same way I will the first time.
Never, yeah.
So if I'm gonna watch these movies, I want the proper
I watched Interstellar.
TV. I want the proper audio.
Sound system.
I want to
everything.
be
That
able to
makes
put the
sense.
music up. So it's and because those
No
movies are held
distraction.
so highly by my friends and society,
Critics, yeah.
and even like even though I don't like watching movies more than once, I'm very much into details. I like watching people talk about all the details I might have missed.
I
And
watched-
a friend of mine told me Interstellar. Like he's like, you're gonna like Interstellar.
You're gonna love it. I
Yeah,
think.
he's like, you're probably gonna go back and watch that movie 5 times.
So I
even
watched
though
it 13 times so far.
That's crazy.
I watched that
And
movie
each time you notice like,
I feel like after the 5th time, I felt like I
Okay.
was so solid. Like I knew like pretty much everything back and front, and like I even felt some like things were. I even felt like I found some discrepancies as far as like the plot line went.
yeah.
But I was completely satisfied with that movie. I
I-
watched it 5 times, or
I think I'd probably love it then because I
that
like.
movie was incredible.
I sometimes like whenever a movie finishes and you're kind of just like,
Oh, dude,
and then
100%. It's like that.
but whenever you go back, you're like, oh my god, like
yeah.
all the dots start
Dude,
to connect.
I've like told a couple of my friends to watch it, and they don't like it as much as me. They're
Oh,
like,
really?
That was so boring. It's a long movie, and the sort of the beginning that kind of sets up the situation for like what's really serious in the movie is
Mhm.
so long, and you just gotta muscle through it, man. But other than that, I thought it was great. Some people like, I had a friend watch it, and they like stopped it like midway through, and then like fell asleep, and then like started up another day. So it's like it's not for everybody for sure, but I feel like you would enjoy it a lot.
I think I would.
But yeah, I definitely feel you. So whenever you're ready, whenever you get your sound system set up, I'll send you the Blu-ray version.
Bro,
But yeah,
you already know it's gonna be part of the collection. But so far we have characters, good audio. What about plot? I know there's a basic plot, but I feel like you look at movies like Memento that
they
that,
don't follow. It doesn't follow.
but they're still good.
It doesn't follow it in a traditional way.
Yeah.
I mean, it still follows. I mean, there's still a climax. There's still rising tension. But I don't mind that. Actually, there's a movie I haven't seen yet, but I've heard really good things about. The entire movie. There's 2 movies. One, I think. Why can't I think of these people's names? The first one is Tom Hardy, right? Tom Hardy plays in a movie where the entire movie is taking place inside of a car. He's just driving. The entire movie, it's like an hour or something long,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes place in a car. and apparently I haven't seen it yet, but apparently it's incredible. And it's like,
Are you sure this is Tom Hardy?
this is Tom Hardy. Tom
Huh.
Hardy plays in a movie where the entire time it's just different phone calls, and you kind of see the facial expressions and stuff, and it's apparently amazing. The second movie, I can't it's not Jake Gyllenhaal. It is Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds. I'm pretty sure it's Ryan Reynolds. The movie takes place in a coffin underground, and the entire movie is just him underground.
Yeah.
And it's like, apparently that's a really good movie as well. And so in some ways I feel like plot lines, they can't be entirely disregarded, but I think that you can
I think the setting is more important than the plot.
I think that you could just turn any story into something good. It just depends on how you deliver it. You know what I mean? I feel like it just needs to be clear. It needs to be concise. It needs to be very detailed.
So you look at Mad
Immersive.
Max. I think
Mhm.
that's an excellent example of a good action film because you have an incredible setting.
Yeah,
Have you seen Mad Max?
I have.
You have really good characters.
Yeah.
You have interesting villains, interesting protagonists, like a badass female protagonist that it didn't feel forced at all.
No, absolutely not. She was tight.
And then and that's a movie where like if you were to ask me who is my favorite character,
In that movie, it's tough.
I couldn't tell you.
Because the protagonist doesn't even speak.
Yeah. And he rarely speaks, but at the same time, his presence was so badass.
Powerful, yeah.
It's so powerful.
So was the lady
Furiosa.
with her arm cut off, or like arm.
Yeah,
she only had
Furiosa.
one. She was so tight.
That's the female protagonist.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Imperator Furiosa. But
And then the henchman, the little henchman,
yeah.
for the protagonist was awesome too.
I forget what they're called. Something Boys. I don't remember.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
But
and it was a remake.
it wasn't a remake.
It
Well,
wasn't?
it was.
In
It's
some ways, it follows sort of like
it's
the
a
idea.
it's a remake. However, it's kind of like how in Spider-Man they don't show the backstory. So in the original Mad Max trilogy, the first Mad Max, the apocalypse hasn't even happened yet. The whole first Mad Max, it's on the brink of like when society is starting to get to that point.
Okay.
So there's still civilization. There's still cops and that kind of thing, and it's just like people are starting to go kind of crazy and do that. And there's a lot more like, I guess, robberies and like just murder and stuff like that on the streets. And the second movie was really, the first like Mad Max, like, out in the apocalypse
yeah.
kind of movie. And so they basically took this character and they kind of just threw him in a scenario. They threw him in a different like he's already. They just they just completely ignore his like backstory. All you know is that he's kind of just on the road, pretty much.
But yeah, I don't know. I liked the plot of that particular movie, and I think that there's a lot of movies that, as far as the plot goes, there definitely needs to be a very there needs to be a problem, right? And it needs to be very easily to see and very easily to follow and very easy to understand why that's a problem. And then there needs to be an obvious solution as well, or at least the lack of a solution as the solution. You know what I mean? At the very end, whatever the solution is, whether it be a happy solution or a sad solution, it needs to feel resolved, right? Or at least it needs to feel like it has come to a close. I don't like movies where they kind of end off as cliffhangers, which I'm not against cliffhangers, but they feel like they're cliffhangers and the story isn't over.
Okay.
In a way where you're not satisfied with it. I feel like there's a movie that I can think of in particular that does this, and it's not with the main storyline. It does this with a number of side plots that just don't have answers to, and it's so annoying. And I remember talking about this movie, and I can't remember. I'm gonna try to think about it and link it. But
I mean, I know the Marvel movies do that, but I think they do it okay. I think
it's not a Marvel movie.
They conclude the plots, and then they have like that additional extra, like minor cliffhanger usually in the after credits.
I cannot think of this movie, but yeah, I don't know. Bottom line is, I think that plots are important, but I think that the delivery of the plot is much more important than the plot itself. I think that you can turn it really any story into something incredible
as long as there's good writing and dialogue.
Exactly.
And
you're really able to draw in, capture the attention of your audience. I think that you can really turn anything into something special.
So, a particular genre that I feel like for some reason, critics don't really give action movies good reviews ever. They're like, like almost like there can never, other than Mad Max, but it's like almost like there can't be a good action movie.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'll see action movies and I'll love them. Like for me, the John Wick movies
literally just thinking
they're so good.
John Wick was actually critiqued pretty well though.
It's still not as highly regarded as it should be, because it's actually. And those movies, I actually like the second one more than I like the first one. And some people I talk to like the second one. Some people I talk to like the first one. That's fine. But the thing I love is that they left certain things open-ended in the first movie. For example, the whole guild or whatever, the whole, like the hotel, with the whole like guild of assassins or whatever, was completely like, it was just mentioned pretty much in the first movie.
I love that,
yeah. And then the second movie is when they delved more into it, because they really didn't need to delve into it in the first movie.
And I'm so glad that they didn't.
Yeah,
because
revenge. The first one is just a straight up revenge movie, a good one at that. And the second one, it's the repercussions of the first movie.
Yeah, and the third one will be the repercussions of the second
movie.
Yeah, the first one I don't know if I liked. I don't know which one I liked more, but I like them both, I think.
The reason why I like the second one more is because at the end of the day, it's an action movie, and I feel like the second one had amazing action.
The first one had amazing action.
It did too, but
the second one,
whenever they all start hunting him down,
yeah, that's true.
It gets real crazy, especially I think he like with the pencil or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was just insane.
That was crazy.
But something I love about those movies is the way that they film action sequences. Something that I don't like in action movies is constant cuts. Like every punch is punch is a cut. And I love how the action just flows in those movies. And what's crazy is a lot of Asian and Eastern films do action so well, yet they don't really get enough credit. I know The Raid got a lot of attention, but there's so many movies like The Raid. And it's like, why can't we take from that and implement them in our American films? Other than John Wick does that very well. I feel like they took that whole flowing combat and implemented it in those movies, which is why those are some of my favorite action movies ever.
I think I really like that you brought that up. The way that people film action.
Yeah.
It's like, it's super important because too many cuts can really take you out of the scene. It makes you feel like you're not really a part of the scene. It makes you feel like you're sort of I don't know if I would say.
It feels like you're blinking constantly.
It almost feels like they're even skipping parts. Like the scene, it just seems less significant. So, for example, I love scenes that don't have any score to it, that don't have any music a lot of times, because it really forces you to really zone in on exactly what's happening, whether it's dialogue or whether it's silence. It's super. It makes you pay it way more attention. It almost
boxing movies do that a lot.
It almost invites you to be silent as well, almost to hold your breath even to kind of really pay attention, and I feel like directors have to make a conscious decision to do that, and I feel like cuts are one of the things that sort of take that away. They sort of take you away from being directly involved. So my favorite fight scene I think of all time is actually from a movie called Kingsman, and it's a scene. There's a lot of music involved.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
It's in the first one. It's the church scene. If you look it up, Kingsman, the church scene. That's probably one of my favorite action sequences of all time. It's so entertaining to watch. Yeah. It's a little comedic, but it's almost. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 cuts, but the entire sequence.
The music is what made it more lighthearted.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
but the actual sequence is maybe, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes, and I would say there's 10 cuts in the entire sequence.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just rolling shots. They're just, you know, just changing the camera angles, and it really made you feel so involved in the sequence.
Yeah.
And
And the chaos is
in the
because that's
it was
that's
that's really what it was.
that's the word that highlights the scene is just pure.
Chaos. Yeah, it
Chaos.
was chaotic, and it was supposed to be chaotic.
Yeah.
Even the reasoning behind that scene is chaos. They might have
Yeah.
even used that word in the movie.
That and even though it was an action sequence,
Mm.
it was important to the plot because it's trying to show that this is gonna happen to the whole
Yeah.
world,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's like the whole world is gonna be going through all this craziness.
If you want to see that scene, we'll link that scene too, I guess.
Okay.
But that was an amazing scene,
Mhm.
dude. But yeah, it's probably one of my favorite action scenes, just rolling shots. I think movies have been actually adopting that a lot more.
Yeah.
Taking
And I think they're taking from the Eastern films. I know there's a like a 20 or 30 minute fight scene
mm-hmm.
in this Eastern film. I don't remember what it was, but I could link it too.
Yeah.
But it's of a guy. He's fighting a bunch of people going up like a spiral staircase, and it's just following him up the spiral staircase as all this action is going down, and it's just insane because, you know, this is one take. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it has to be done in one take,
Uh-huh.
and it's to me that's
That is so
insane.
cool. It really makes you feel like you can't blink, right? It's like those scenes, I just love scenes that really invite you to be a part of them. I think those are great. But even not even just in action, I think movies are recently Birdman. I don't know when Birdman came out, but in Birdman they give the illusion of an entire movie that's taken one shot. I mean, there's obviously cuts, but the cuts aren't really cuts. There's a technique in film where if you spin a camera, then you can cut within that spin where it's blurry and it just seems like you just move the camera and it's still one shot. They do techniques like that the entire
Okay.
time, and it feels like you're watching one clip for however long the movie is, 2 hours long. And that is like, I think that's amazing. And they actually talked about that. There might even be like a small mini documentary about, you know, how difficult it was to film this in a way where it's like one
and
scene.
even and cuts are good but they have to be done right. Something I don't like when movies do, and not a lot of movies do, and if they do do it, you would notice. But whenever a scene is being filmed, you almost have to kind of treat it like it's a set, you know, like a on a theater stage. So if a scene is happening right in front of you, you don't have a shot from this angle and then you take another shot 360 degrees from the other side coming this way. Everything has to be in a 180
that 180
zone.
degrees. Yeah, I can see that.
And I've seen like really bad TV
Aside
shows.
from, like, dialogue.
Yeah, that or if there's something important that's happening behind the camera, and you need to show somebody entering the room. But I actually even enjoy it better when it's still showcasing this scene and you hear the audio of the door open and the character walk into frame.
I can see that.
But I mean that's just a minor thing. But I've seen TV shows where they've shown action scenes, and they've completely done cuts 360 degrees, and it just takes away from that scene. And in terms of like music selection too, I think one of my favorite choices is blues. I like when movies do blues because it's a genre of music that gives off so much emotion, yet it kind of died off into what people listen to nowadays. So when a movie has kind of that blues kind of vibe, it's kind of a sad, depressing tone, usually in a bar or something like that. And I feel like I kind of prefer when movies, rather than picking what's the popular musician or popular soundtracks that are out right now, picking something that's meant for the scene, like perfect music selection, not just to appeal to like kids listening to rappers and that kind of thing.
Most professional directors that's been in the game a long time, they have their original soundtracks, right? That's the best way to go. If you can't do that, then don't choose very popular songs. I recently did a review of a film, the one that I was talking about. I did a review and I had sent it to a friend of the directors, and that was one of my biggest issues with the movie is that he used a song that was from Coldplay. That's like a huge, like very popular song. And I was telling him, I was like, man, like I found myself almost not ignoring the film, but singing along to the song so much that I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's like a big deal. So music selection is huge. You just don't want to put anything into your film that's going to be distracting from what's most important, right? And so that's why I think sometimes my favorite films and movies or scenes that don't have any audio other than what's happening in the scene. I love that where they focus on the sound effects or the waves crashing or this
Yeah.
or completely silent. I love in a way the lack of audio. A lot of the lack of
Is more powerful.
more
Yeah.
powerful. It provides more attention.
I have a question.
What's up?
So do you think having like a certain plot that's done before, like for example, a good revenge story that follows the exact same formula of a good revenge story, would you still, I guess, regard that movie highly, even though you already know what's gonna happen?
I mean, I think film shouldn't be. I think it should be recognized as an art form. I think a lot of times people forget that it's an art. And if you're asking me, in some ways, I feel like you're asking me. There's multiple people that are told, "Hey, paint a picture of this lady right here," and a lot of the ladies, they're gonna look the same. But I think that the most important thing is making sure that you capture what the lady looks like while also adding things that are specific to you and your design. And so if somebody draws the lady in a way that's so abstract, but you can still make it out, you might appreciate that much more,
Okay.
even though it looks less like her than someone else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
get you.
I think that the best movies or my favorite movies are movies like that, where it does follow the formula, maybe loosely, or it doesn't capture the revenge story exactly the way you wanted, but you can tell it was done from a stylistic purpose. Like you feel like this was done intentionally. It wasn't supposed to be exactly like that intentionally.
Mhm.
And even though while on paper it might not seem like, oh, that's the same thing, I still appreciate it more than this other one because it was done this way.
Okay.
But yeah,
So-
and that'll vary. Some people really.
And
are
I
by
think
the
if I
book.
was to really unbiasedly review movies,
Mm.
I would try to look at that, and because I
Yeah.
do, at the end of the day, when I see something completely new that is
Yeah.
amazing, you can't help but regard it higher.
appreciate
You know
it
what
a
I
little
mean?
more, absolutely.
But I feel like when you're reviewing movies, you have to be unbiased.
You do have to be unbiased, but I think in some ways you can even objectively say that this was a little more creative because I've
Okay.
seen this before. You know what I mean? This was creative, while also saying like I thought the plot or the storyline was a little rough.
Okay, but I think that the problem is though when another movie comes and say does that creative thing, it does the same exact thing, but it
Mhm.
does it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's almost like how can I review a movie or rate a movie without being biased even through time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. So you're saying if somebody creates a new technique and then that technique is then taken?
Yeah, so it's
think-
so would the first film still be better than the one that kind of copied its technique even though it did it better?
I think
You get
that
what I'm
you would.
saying?
No, I think it could be. It could possibly be because you rate. I think you rate a movie in its time. You can't rate a movie. If a movie is the
Okay.
first one to do a technique, how could you possibly rate?
I think
rate it in
people.
comparison
I
to.
get you, and I agree with you, but I think people get mad if you say like a movie that was good back then is bad now. For example, if you talk trash about the original Star Wars trilogy,
Yeah,
people are gonna get pissed off.
for sure.
You know?
There are some things that I think exist in movies that will never die out. As far as, for example, good acting. It's like a
Yeah.
movie can be good if the acting is good, and that'll be the case for eternity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's bad acting in a movie, it doesn't matter what time it was created in. It's just you're not gonna enjoy it as much because the acting is bad.
Hmm.
So
But
there-
nowadays we have better actors too. Not always, but some actors are just incredible.
Yeah.
They blow old actors out of them.
Robin Williams is probably the greatest actor of all time, and it's like he was in sort of like the new age movies and some older movies, and I think that you can't really take that away from him.
Mhm.
But I think acting styles have changed a lot too.
And look at some actors in their careers. They just grew so much better as an actor as time
As
kind
time
of.
progressed, yeah.
Like they'll still have, like, you look at Will Smith, for example, like Pursuit of Happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll still always have those like crazy good icon. But I think if he was to go back and do that role again, he could possibly do it better, because he's grown so much.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
I can see that. I could see him maybe doing iRobot a little better.
yeah.
I could
Even
see
though that
him-
was like a great movie.
that was an incredible. I like
Yeah.
that movie a lot. I can just see him.
iRobot, and then what's the other one?
7 Pounds.
With the zombies.
The Zombies.
Yeah.
Will Smith and Zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. Like he could have probably done I Am Legend
yeah,
better.
that movie is okay.
A lot of people love that movie.
Yeah, a lot of people. I thought it was all right. I just felt a little bored by it.
I liked it, man. Now when you look back and like you cover all the things, like the sound and
I
and all
don't think. I think I might have just.
I really think it's just his acting could have been better.
Yeah.
I really think that's what it was.
I don't even remember. It was just not very memorable for me. I think
It was like he was like friends with the mannequins. You remember? Like
I don't remember that.
Yeah, like a
actually.
mannequin that was like his best friend.
Dude, I
And he
don't
was
think I
so-
ever watched that movie.
Seriously, that's crazy. You're judging a movie sitting here and you haven't watched it.
I think I just watched scenes from that movie.
Okay, it's a good movie, but
yeah, because whenever I was like trying to recall the movie, I could only remember like 4 or 5 scenes.
yeah.
The scene where he catches the thing and then he like injects it.
And I think that scene wasn't
and
even
then
in
he
the
has to,
movie.
like, oh, I'm tripping.
No.
I was literally about to give it away.
No.
Something.
Like either that scene. So there was like a scene that they didn't put in the movie that's on YouTube, a clip that's like an alternative ending.
I saw that.
And but the movie
I
itself
saw that.
was very cool. I'm not gonna say it's like The Quiet Place, but sometimes it feels kind of similar.
I'm so tripping.
And
I never seen that.
the
movie.
most iconic thing from that movie, it's like a minor spoiler if you don't mind, but he basically has a friend who's a mannequin, and in the movie he's a scientist and he's trying to find out like why, like, you know, he's trying to find out an ailment to a cure to these zombie things.
Mhm.
And he basically makes a trap, and he's super clever, and he tricks one of them,
Mhm.
and he like kidnaps it. And what you don't realize is those things are like smart, and they use the same trap to trick him by using his mannequin friend. And so it's
Oh.
like it was just a really cool movie. It was really interesting.
You know, last point. We kind of went on.
Yeah,
long.
we went a little overboard.
I think that my favorite kind of movies for sure that I really appreciate and really remember are a lot of indie movies. And probably my favorite indie movie right now, it's not really an indie movie, but it's a super low key movie. It's called Swiss Army Man. And if you guys have made it this far,
Isn't that Daniel
Radcliffe.
Radcliffe? Really?
that movie is amazing. It is hilarious. It is so original. It was entertaining the entire time. And that movie is so amazing. And it's like the entire time you're trying to figure out the question, you know what I mean? Like, is it so or is it not? The entire movie, from the very beginning to the very end, you're trying to figure it out. While at the same time, the movie knows that you're trying to figure this out, and it's trying to, you know, say, "Hey, don't even worry about that. Just come enjoy the movie." I guarantee you that it was like the directors made the conscious decision to hold this mystery until the very end of the movie, and then you feel like they've given you an answer, very seamlessly giving you an answer, and then it switches up and you're like, what?
I don't know, man. That's like it really depends on how they do it, because
It was so
that's
good.
one of the things that's like.
Nah, it was so good. Everything's seamless. It's not forced at the end. It's seamless.
Okay, maybe I'll watch it.
You have to. That movie, it's a little inappropriate. But I think it was probably one of the most original movies that I've ever seen. And the inspiration behind it was apparently like a fart, right? And it's like this super cliche, this almost elementary style comedy idea, a fart noise or whatever, and they just took it to another level. But yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, those were our. I gotta take this. I'm so sorry. Those were our little critiques. Hello. The back, please. Yes, ma'am. All right, I'll be on in a second. Bye. But yeah, I think that was pretty solid. That was super duper duper long.
We
and
could probably talk about movies and TV shows and
for a million
and
years.
video games. I honestly, on a side note, I think probably my favorite medium of entertainment is video games, because at the same time, because there's so many elements. And not necessarily entertainment, but art form.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say art form because it's music, it's gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good story, plot, dialogue,
Okay.
acting, all those things in one to make an experience that you usually never forget.
Yeah, I see that.
If like the best games you've ever played, you don't forget them.
for sure.
They always stick with you.
I see that. I can see that for sure. I think mine is definitely movies, but I don't know. I can.
So you really like Last of Us, for example.
That game was incredible.
I haven't played it yet, but
You're tripping. You haven't played or watched like
know.
the best. I mean, Last of Us, I really like that, but I don't really play like a ton of games like that. That was probably one of the first ones. And so whenever I told us a few friends, I was like, man, you gotta play this, and they're like, oh, you gotta play Uncharted, and you gotta play this, and you got. And I was like, man, I have nothing really to compare it to.
Metal
but
Gear Solid, like
Yeah, see, I've
series
never
like that.
played those. I never played those, but it was so. I had recognized a lot of the things from The Last of Us is built like a movie, dude.
Yeah,
It's built like a movie.
and that's how
Crazy.
games are kind of becoming, like single player games.
They really spent their time on like the character development, everything.
Getting the actors and like.
It's serious, man. That game was tight.
Alrighty. With that being said, please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment below. Let us know what your favorite movies are, what kind of tropes you like and dislike. Don't be shy. Drop a few words down below. Alrighty. Take care. See you guys next time.
Thanks so much. Assalamu alaikum.